Remember, he's talking to Jews. What was going on here? This this book of Hebrews was written before AD 70. You say, okay, so what? No, friend. What was still around before AD 70? Temple. The temple in Jerusalem. What were they doing? They were doing sacrifices. The Jews. Jesus had came in the flesh, God in human flesh, sacrificed himself as the Jewish Messiah, raised himself from the dead. That's what the sacrifices represented. It was a type and shadow. But since Jesus had came and the sacrifice of God, the lamb that God provided for himself, was done, what were the Jews doing sacrifices for? They were still looking for the Messiah, even though the Messiah had come. So the sacrifices themselves became an example of disobedience. Why? Because they wasn't looking for the right Christ. They wasn't looking for the right Jesus. They wasn't looking for the right sacrifice that came down from heaven, sent into the world by God. So they made that which was holy, that which was given by God, instructed by God. They turned it into a religion. Go read the book of Malachi. He tells you all about what they thought about those sacrifices. What a horrible, horrible time. So it's sharper than a two-edged sword. What did he use it for? He uses it to pierce, to separate. Friend, there is a separation in this current world. A separation from true born-again believers and fake believers. A separation between all unbelievers and true born-again believers. That's what he's doing. He divides. Is the word of God divisive? Yes. Yes. Folks, listen, please. If everybody is loving the gospel that you preach, you got a false gospel. Why? Why in the world would the unbelievers love your gospel and hate Jesus' gospel? Why would they fall in love with everything you say when they crucified the God of that gospel? When they killed every apostle? Why? Because they were preaching that gospel. When the Lord of that gospel said, if they hated me, they just might hate you. No, that's not what he said. He said, if they hated me, they're going to hate you. You say, I got to go around having people hate me. No, man, they're not hating you. They're hating the gospel you're preaching. They don't like the fact that Christ is the only door. They want to come to him and present their works. They want to come to him and say, hey, look, I go to church. I tithe. I do this. I do that. I don't go here. I don't go there. I don't drink this. I don't eat that. Look at what I wear or what I don't wear. That's their presentation. Pay close attention, friends. Pay really close attention to the gospel being preached. If that gospel has a different focus than this right here, this person, that's a false gospel. Paul, through the power of the Spirit, wrote an entire book about that false gospel. What false gospel? The one that include works. Read the book of Galatians. That's what this passage is about. This passage is about the Jewish false religion. And not just the Jewish false religion, but every false religion. So what does God say I'm going to do with that? He says, I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to divide it from the true gospel. So what was the two-edged sword used for? It was used for cutting things away. It was used to divide, not to draw people in. No, God said, I'm going to cut out the cancer. I'm going to cut it out. What do you do with stuff that's been cut out? You burn it. Yes. God says, I'm going to cut it out and I'm going to burn it. I'm going to divide between my people, the people that I chose, and those that are not mine. How is he going to do that? How, God? He says, first, I'm going to pierce them. How are you going to pierce them? I'm going to pierce them with my word. Why? Because my word is truth and theirs are not. Then he says, I'm going to divide them. How are you going to divide them? Because there are going to be some who have saved souls and saved spirits. And there's going to be others that look just like this, who's not going to have saved souls and saved spirits. Are you looking for the external salvation? God isn't looking for that. That's useless. What did Jesus tell the Pharisees? Hypocrites, you den of vipers. You clean the outside of the cup, but on the inside of the cup, it's full of nastiness and the wickedness, the dead men bones, rotten to the core. What's on the inside? Your soul. What's on the inside of you? Your spirit. Your soul and your spirit. So how's God going around dividing people, friends? With a two-edged sword. That's judgment. God is going around judging. And he's executing that judging. He's piercing with his word, revealing the falseness of their gospel. That it depends on your works and their works. God says, I ain't accepting that mess. Not going to happen. And then I'm going to divide them. I'm going to divide them by the soul and the spirit that I created. That's how. Is it by their behavior? Get out of here. God, he's not separating believers and unbelievers by the way that they behave. He's judging them based on that. But he's not separating them based on that. Why? Because they look alike. The wheat and the tares look alike. And if you only look on the external, God says you're going to root up some believers. You're going to tear down some believers when you think they're unbelievers. And you're going to lift up some unbelievers because all you see is only external. God says, I am going to expose them inside through their soul and through their spirit. Why? Because Romans 8 tells us that those who are in the spirit, what do? They set their mind on the things of the spirit. Who said that, Kevin? No, I didn't say that. God said that. That's the soul and the spirit he's talking about.